In today's episode, we're sharing a powerful clip from our webinar, Pinpoint Your Growth Bottleneck in 90 Minutes Using Data, which was held on July 30th, 2025. You'll hear from Claudiu, CEO and founder of Inner Trends, as he unpacks how data can reveal the hidden gaps in your product-led growth journey. Claudiu explains why activation is the critical bridge between acquisition and retention, and how tracking the right metrics like setup, first value, and usage indicators can transform the way teams align on growth. If you've ever wondered whether your data is truly guiding decisions or just sitting in dashboards, this talk will give you practical steps to change that. And if you'd like to join us live for future sessions, be sure to sign up for the Product-Led newsletter. We'll send you updates on upcoming webinars and growth resources. Now, let's dive into the conversation with Claudiu.
Now, Claudio is going to talk a lot about just how do you set things up to track.
Took me by surprise a little bit here, but by the way, very, very difficult to match your energy level. So I won't be able to have the exactly same energy as Wes. Probably a little bit more boring because my background, I come from data. And I went to business because when I started in data, I was really, really frustrated by the fact that people were not making decisions based on my data. I thought my data was absolutely amazing. Nobody was making decisions based on it. And I said, okay, I need to switch places. I'm going to go into business, and having the data and having the business, I'm going to, nothing can stop me. And then I realized that my data was shit. And now it doesn't work like that. I was too geeky, too much into the technical stuff. And I learned the business talk. I learned how to be what the business truly needs from the data. And this is what I hope I bring to you today. So I'm very comfortable with an engineer, but I'm also very comfortable with a business person. And let's see where this takes us. We are going to start with a map, because that's what I always do when I talk with new businesses. We need to map things down. And I'm only going to focus on the three major pillars of every product-led SaaS: acquisition, activation, and retention. Everything else comes after these three. Typically in a business, marketing takes over acquisition. Yeah, they know very well what they need to do. They need to bring new signups. They need to bring new leads. They have everything mapped up for them. Product and customer success know that they need to get the product to be better used, bring more value to the existing customers. And often activation is left aside. And this is what we are going to talk today, because the go-to-market metrics that Wes presented earlier are mostly the part of the activation. But often a lot of teams do not take ownership of activation, and they always pass the ball from one another. And activation is actually the bridge from acquisition to retention. So marketing comes and they have their own flows, and what they want is to bring as many accounts, as many signups that eventually they will purchase. But because the purchase happens much later, it's not something that they track easily, and they only maybe report at the end of the year. And if it doesn't happen, it's the problem of the product. The product is not good enough. It's not doing its job. It's not us. We brought a lot of signups. We did our work. But then we have the team that works on retention. They look at monthly active users or the second month retention rate. They focus on that, and they have their own goals. But what we need and what we are going to focus today is on this activation flow, which is the go-to-market metrics that Wes was talking about. I confirm, we often give it multiple names. Sometimes we give it setup, a habit, or complete setup, first strike, usage indicator, onboarding, and activation. They have different names. The names don't matter. What matters is they always say the same thing, that you need to bring an account. Once you bring it, you need them to set up the product, because if they don't set up the product, there is no way for them to get anything from it. They get the first value, and then they need to get repeated value. If you don't do that, there is no bridge between acquisition and retention. And what I'm going to talk today mostly about is how do we track them? What setup do we use to make sure that we get these metrics right from tomorrow, and to make it very easy for you to get them filled in a scorecard, either through precision with math, either through an Excel file, doesn't matter. But you need to have access to this data. The beautiful part is it's much easier than you think, but it's mostly about the process. So let's start with visits, because here is what probably most of you have, but we'll see about it. So pretty much everybody uses Google Analytics. Yeah, we have GA4. And we consider Google Analytics a decent starting source for reporting visits. If you are a startup, you are just getting started. If you don't have many active users, Google Analytics will do an amazing job for you. Yes, it will tell you how many visits come to your website. It's a free product, and you'll know the traffic sources and all of that. But as you grow, as you get to hundreds or thousands of active users in your product, all those hundreds of active users in your product, what do? Like when they come to your product, they go to your website, they click login and they log in. There is a visit. So you have inflated numbers of visits from people that already have accounts that don't actually tell you the story you need to hear about how many people are you bringing to your website. Here is where you need to go to the next level, which is not that complex. Yeah, you need to link Google Analytics to BigQuery. You need to have that data raw, because either somebody in your team, either an agency you work with or a freelancer, or a service like InnerTrends, or I don't know, maybe even Precision works to help in this area, you get to filter things out. Yeah, let's filter out the people that already have accounts. Let's filter out the people that go and visit some blog post that's not even related to what we do. So you get to filter, you get to clean your data, not from a technical perspective, but from a business perspective. You need like qualified visits, basically. That's what you are looking for. That's what you want to monitor. So by doing this link, you are able to do that. And then there is a third step where you have the big problem with Google Analytics and Google Tag Manager is that a lot of JavaScript blockers, ad blockers are removing some of that traffic. So you are getting probably 80-85% of all the visits to your website. Now, if visit becomes very important for your business, your marketing department needs very accurate data, you need to upgrade to an independent tracking, tool agnostic, like first party, not depending on any external cookies, not depending on any external JavaScript, everything inside your own product. And if anyone wants to know how to do that and how to achieve this, you'll get my link for a meeting and I'll gladly share, or you send me an email and I can send you materials. But there is a way to get that very accurate visits for your scorecard. And it usually get an increase of 20%, 30% increase on what you would get in Google Analytics. So the first question for you is, where are you at? Are you at just the beginning? Go to Google Analytics in the middle, make sure you get a BigQuery and you have somebody to help you retrieve the visits from BigQuery or from the Google Analytics data, or you need maybe a more advanced system to get much more accurate data. But that's the first question you need to ask and get an answer for. And once you get that, we move on to the next metric in the go-to-market metrics, which is account created. Now, I'll keep it simple here. The most reliable source for the number of accounts created is your product database. Nothing beats that. That's where is the username and the password of the person to log in. To fill into the scorecard, you don't need to rely necessarily on third-party tools. You just need to read this data from your own internal systems to fill in the scorecard. Wes in his book says something which I completely agree, and I have seen with many, many successful teams. The scorecard is not something that you just look at, I don't know, once in a meeting and say, okay, it's good or not. It's about that ownership. It's about that person's taking the time to fill or taking the time to go into a tool and check and make sure it is correct. That process puts the metric in your mind and makes it a focus. Otherwise, if just in an Excel sheet, filled automatically. Maybe you need to focus on it. You need to go on it and work on it. So yes, accounts created should not be a problem for anyone to get. It's very easy. You have it in your own database and you can't get better accuracy than there. Then complete the setup. This step is one that a lot of companies get wrong. I'll have to say this. A lot of companies put too much pressure on what the setup in my product is. So that's why we put it in what are the minimum requirements. So if any of those steps is missing, there is no way for them to get anything from your product. Yes, like in the case of ChartMogul that Wes gave us an example and Sarah accepts us having it, is if you do not connect financial metrics to ChartMogul, what can you get? Like it needs to be there, but that's it. A lot of companies put, but you also need to go and invite somebody. You also need to go. No, that's beautiful stuff that gets added. It's not a minimum requirement. So when you focus on the setup, really focus on that minimum requirement. You want to know how many people get there. And I'll also share a bit of benchmarks here. If less than 50% of your users do not complete the minimum requirements, you have a problem. And a lot of companies have problems in this area. We are not talking about value. We are not talking about habit formation. We are talking about the investment of people to do the minimum required for them to see something in your product. And mostly that investment is friction. It's good friction. It's friction that you want. You don't want to complete the setup for the user. It usually doesn't. I've never seen it work. I can give examples we can go into the question and answers area at the end. You need friction. You want people to invest. And why? Because you made them a promise on your website. They came to your website, you promised them something. And they said, yeah, I need that. I'm going to sign up. And you're going to ask them for stuff for them to get to that promise. Now, if that promise is not compelling enough and you are asking for too much, I'm not going to do it. If you are asking for stuff that's not related to my promise, I'm not going to do it. But if what you are asking is directly related to the promise, and me as a user, I immediately see, yes, I need to do this in order to get a promise, I'm going to invest my time to do that. So again, minimum requirements for completing the setup. And you need to name it as an event. It needs to be something that it has a very clear, it's either in your analytics tool, Mixpanel, Post-Hog, Amplitude, it doesn't matter. It definitely needs to be in your backend. Like your developers or somebody from your data team needs to be able to do a query in your database and answer with 100% accuracy who completed the setup. Because the moment somebody completes a setup, make no mistake, something changes in the backend under their user. Otherwise, when they refresh the page, they need to complete it again. So definitely your product knows who completed the setup. We then go to the first strike. So Wes talked about it, and we are completely aligned. But what we need to do from the perspective of data, I need a name of an event. I need something that I can pinpoint in the data, in the analytics tool, in the backend, somewhere. We start with filling in this sentence, which is mostly related to the promise of your product. So your product helps users achieve their goals by enabling them to build an application, view a report. What is it? Remove marketing talk. Tell us what that value comes from. Now we need to name the specific event that enables that experience. Yes, like published application, viewed report. It's an event that's tracked somewhere. We need that event and you need to note it down. And by the way, one of the biggest problems of the go-to-market metrics we've seen with companies that implement them is not documenting. Yeah, like you need ownership and you need documentation, because otherwise, if different people have different definitions for what everything is, you'll get into troubles quickly. So you name the event, and the first time that event is performed, that's your first strike. So this is the technical definition of what Wes presented earlier. Maybe just a quick parenthesis on the example that Wes gave. Yes, we help people, like the software example, they build apps. And it would be very easy to come and say, the first strike is when I deliver the app, when I first publish an app. But what does publishing mean? Now, from the data person in me says, okay, it's the event publish an app. But the business person in me says, well, if a tree falls in a forest and nobody sees it, did it really fall? So a published app that nobody sees, it's not a published app. A published app needs to be seen by somebody. So first strike is not publishing an app, is first view of a published app. That's completely different. And for somebody to view the published app, I need to share it. Yes. So that's the difference between a technical person and a business approach of the same problem. Now, the key usage indicator, the moment that generates habit is indeed repeating the first strike. Now, you can go and do 3 times like Wes does. Works really well. You can go and analyze the data. Like there are algorithms that you can apply, and the data will tell you it's 7 times in 5 days. Yeah, like it will give you with very high precision what's the exact number. Now the problem is you want a number there.
To give a bit of context too, is the frequency depends on like what kind of product it is. So like if it's a social media tool, it would be like, what is the behavior you're trying to create? It's like, oh, daily. Yeah, daily would be great. Multiple times a day. Fantastic. But if it's a product analytics tool like Amplitude or something like that, it's like, hey, actually weekly's okay. Yes. Weekly's fine. If they're always in the tool every single day, every single hour, it's like, maybe they're not doing work that will improve these metrics. So when you're thinking about the key usage indicator, I just want to share that couple examples because frequency depends on what kind of product you have. But yeah, I love that you pointed that out.
Yes,
and then
every product has a natural frequency that you can discover. Again, that's an analysis that can be done on your data, and you can discover what's the natural frequency of my product. And you'd be surprised. Every time we present that data to businesses, I've never seen a case where the person receiving the data says, oh yeah, like it's exactly as we expected. It's almost never, because it's a story. It's not a number. And you need to capture that. Yes, it's segmentation. Basically, you have segments from multiple natural frequencies. But how do you know you get your definitions right? And 2 things: very high correlation between setup, first strike, and key usage indicator. And when you do the scorecard, after you fill it for a couple of weeks, it's very easy to calculate that correlation. Everybody can do it. Yeah, like you see, there is an Excel formula that will tell you the correlation. High correlation.
What kind of correlation though would you typically see? So like, let's say you have somebody hits like a first strike or a key usage indicator. So they're getting the value of the product. Is it normal for it to be like, 80% of people that do that, they become an upgraded customer? Is it lower? Like what's the averages you're seeing?
Definitely. So high correlation means that when one goes up, the other goes up. That's what we want to see. Like if we have more people completing the setup, it means we have more people getting to first strike. It means we have more people getting to key usage indicator. That's what correlation tells us. That's why we need a timeline. When it comes to percentages of people getting to them, first strike, that's what we say, that 40 to 60% of all your qualified signups need to get there. Now, if more than 20 or 30% get to key usage indicator, in the case of your product, what Sarah will present to you when it comes to revenue, you'll be at the upper level. It's very difficult to get to the numbers that Sarah is going to present in terms of revenue if you have less than 20% on first strike. It's simply very, very difficult to get there. So yes, that's what we see. 40 to 60% in B2B, 30 to 50% in B2C for first strike. And that's what we use internally when we judge a business.
Awesome. Well, thanks for going through that. I love that correlation. Then the next section we're going to go through is really how to think about the reverse funnel? Like, how do you find like what is your core bottleneck? But I really thank you, Claudiu, for just going through the overview of like, okay, how do you track each of these specific metrics? Because the wrong data, like you said, it doesn't matter if you get like you track the right stuff, but if the wrong data is there, we'll still find a lot of issues with where you're focusing at the end of the day. So,
and just one quick message for everyone.
Sure.
You all have the right data. You need to focus and get it because that data is there. You might need some work, but you have it. No excuse to not do the scorecard. Now, you might want to get it in your tools. Completely agree. You don't want that data anywhere, but there's no excuse for you to not get the scorecard as soon as possible.